The pregnancy test in my hand shows 2 pink lines. I took 3 more just to be sure. Dollar Tree, Walgreens brand, even the expensive digital one. But they all say the same thing, pregnant. And I have no idea whose baby this is. Could be any one of 37 different men from those 6 weeks. Maybe more. I lost count after the weekend at the clubhouse. I'm sitting on the bathroom floor of this disgusting studio apartment in East Oakland, a far cry from the beautiful house Isaac and I shared in the hills. The toilet runs constantly, there's mold creeping up the shower curtain, and I can hear my neighbor striking a match through walls so thin I know when he lights his morning cigarette. The smell of stale weed drifts through the vents and mixes with the perpetual mildew stench. Outside, sirens wail every hour, so different from the peaceful quiet of our old neighborhood. This is what rock bottom looks like when you throw away 9 years with the best man you'll ever know for a weekend of cheap thrills, and even cheaper men. My phone buzzes with another notification from the clinic, one of those automated portal messages reminding me to update the father's information. They even bolded it this time, like the font choice might magically give me an answer. I almost laugh at the absurdity. Which one should I list? Wade, the 58-year-old biker who started this whole mess? One of his 20-something friends who took their turns that night? Maybe one of the random guys I met online during those 10 days of revenge hookups? The truth is, I have no one to blame but myself. Isaac gave me everything a woman could want, and I destroyed it all because I was bored. Bored. As if that's any excuse for what I did. It started 3 months ago, though if I'm honest, the restlessness had been building for longer. Isaac and I had been together since college. 9 years of stability, comfort, and what I now realize was genuine love. He worked as a software engineer, cloud security of all things, for a tech company in San Francisco, making good money. We had a nice house in the Oakland Hills with a view of the bay. He cooked dinner most nights, fixed things around the house without being asked, and still brought me flowers every Friday. But somewhere along the way, I convinced myself that stability meant boring. That his predictability was a flaw rather than reliability. That his gentle nature was weakness instead of strength. I started going out more with my friend Tanya, who'd been divorced twice by 35 and lived like she was still 21. She'd drag me to bars in Jack London Square, telling me I was wasting my youth on a guy who wore the same khakis to work every day. "You need some excitement, Grace," she'd say, ordering another round of shots. "When's the last time Isaac surprised you?" The truth was, Isaac surprised me all the time, with thoughtful gestures, planning weekend trips, remembering things I'd mentioned wanting months ago. But that wasn't the kind of surprise Tanya meant, and I was stupid enough to let her plant those seeds of dissatisfaction. That's how I met Wade. It was a Thursday night at some dive bar on International Boulevard. Tanya had ditched me to hook up with some guy, leaving me alone at the bar. Wade slid onto the stool next to me, all leather jacket, gray beard, and stories about riding cross-country. He was 58 years old, 2 years younger than my father, and I should have run the other way. But there was something about the danger he represented. The complete opposite of safe, stable Isaac. Wade bought me drinks, told me I was too pretty to look so sad, and gave me his number on a napkin stained with whiskey. I told myself I'd never call. I threw the napkin in my purse and forgot about it. But the next week, when Isaac had to work late again on a Friday night, I found myself staring at that number. "Just one drink," I told myself. "Just to see what it feels like." 1 drink turned into 3. 3 turned into making out in the parking lot like a teenager, and before I knew it, I was sneaking around with a man old enough to be my father, lying to Isaac about where I was going, who I was with. The lying came so easily it scared me. Isaac trusted me completely, never questioned when I said I was having a girls' night or going to yoga. He'd kiss me goodbye and tell me to have fun, and I'd drive straight to Wade's apartment in Hayward, a place that reeked of cigarettes and bad decisions. For 6 weeks, I lived this double life. Wade made me feel young and reckless, like I was in some movie about a woman finding herself. He'd take me on his motorcycle to biker bars where everyone stared at us, the grizzled old rider and his young prize. I thought I was so sophisticated, so daring. The weekend that ruined everything started with another lie. Isaac had been planning a romantic getaway to Napa for our anniversary, but I told him my college friend Brittany was having a crisis and needed me to come to her family's cottage in Tahoe for a girls' weekend. "Of course, babe," Isaac had said, always understanding. "Brittany needs you. We can do Napa another time." He helped me pack, made me a playlist for the drive, and kissed me goodbye like he always did. Like he'd see me Sunday night and everything would be the same. Instead, I drove to Wade's clubhouse in Livermore, where he was having a weekend party with his biker crew. The moment I walked in, the smell hit me. Stale beer mixed with motor oil and sweat, the kind of smell that clings to your clothes and hair. I swear I could still smell it on my skin during the drive home the next morning. I thought I was so cool, walking in there in my tight jeans and leather jacket I'd bought specifically for the occasion. Wade showed me off like a trophy, his arm possessively around my waist as he introduced me to his friends. The drinking started early. Shots of whiskey, cheap beer, everyone telling stories and getting louder as the night went on. I was trying to keep up, trying to prove I belonged there, that I wasn't just some suburban girl playing dress-up. By midnight, I was drunker than I'd ever been. The room was spinning, and Wade kept refilling my glass, whispering in my ear about how hot I looked, how all his friends were jealous. I felt powerful, desired in a way that was different from Isaac's steady love. That's when Wade started suggesting things. Terrible things that even drunk I knew were wrong. But he kept pushing, kept telling me it would be fun, that I was too uptight, too vanilla. His friends started circling like wolves, and Wade was practically auctioning me off, laughing like it was all some joke I was supposed to enjoy. I want to say I was too drunk to consent. I want to say they took advantage, but the truth is uglier than that. In that moment, in my drunken, reckless state, I said yes. I said yes because I wanted to prove I wasn't the boring suburban girlfriend. I wanted to be the wild girl who did crazy things. I won't describe what happened next. Even now, sitting here pregnant and alone, I can barely think about it without wanting to throw up. 26 men. Wade kept count like it was some sick competition. Some came back for seconds. A couple even came back for thirds. I was too drunk and high on the attention to stop it, too deep in my own destruction to say no. The next morning, I woke up in Wade's bed, sore and sick and covered in shame. The clubhouse was littered with passed-out bikers and empty bottles. The smell of stale beer and something worse made my stomach turn. Wade was in the kitchen making coffee like it was any other morning, whistling while he cooked eggs. "Morning, wild thing," he said with a grin that made my stomach turn. "Hell of a night, huh?" I gathered my things and left without eating, driving back to Oakland in a haze of regret and tequila sweats. But here's the truly pathetic part. I was angry at Isaac. Angry that he was working that weekend, that he hadn't fought harder to keep our anniversary plans. As if any of this was his fault. I got home Sunday evening to find Isaac cooking dinner, the house smelling like garlic and fresh herbs. He'd bought me flowers. Sunflowers because he knew they were my favorites. Asked about my weekend, how Brittany was doing, if I'd gotten any rest. I lied right to his face, spinning stories about crying sessions and wine-fueled therapy talks. He listened with such genuine concern, even offered to send Brittany a card, even though he'd only met her once. She wasn't the type to stay in touch. The man I'd just betrayed in the worst possible way was worried about my fictional friend's fictional problems. That's when the rage really set in. Misplaced, irrational rage that he was so good, so trusting, so absolutely perfect while I was rotting from the inside. I picked fights over nothing, criticized his clothes, his job, his hobbies. I was trying to make him the villain so I wouldn't have to face what I'd become. Monday morning, Isaac left for a 2-week work trip to Austin. A big project that would mean a promotion, more money for our future. He was so excited, talking about how we could finally take that Europe trip I'd always wanted. "I'll miss you," he said at the airport, holding me like he actually meant it. "But think of all the plans we can make when I get back." The second his plane took off, I was on my phone. Not calling Wade. Even I had enough sense to know that was done. Instead, I did something worse. I downloaded dating apps, set up profiles, and started matching with anyone who showed interest. For 10 days straight, I met up with different men, sometimes 2 in one day, coffee with one in the afternoon, drinks with another at night. I told myself I was exploring my options, seeing what I'd been missing all these years with Isaac. What I was really doing was self-destructing in the most spectacular way possible. Each hookup was worse than the last, each man less interesting than the one before. But I couldn't stop. It was like I was trying to destroy any chance of going back to my old life, burning every bridge so thoroughly that there'd be no way to rebuild. I used Isaac's laptop for all of this. He'd left it behind because he had his work computer, and I was too lazy to use my phone for everything. Set up my profiles, chatted with matches, arranged meetups, all on his computer like I wanted to get caught. Used his email for verification codes, saved passwords, left browser tabs open. The man who worked in cloud security, who understood digital footprints better than anyone, and I was leaving evidence everywhere like I wanted him to find it. The universe has a sick sense of humor, though. 2 weeks after the clubhouse incident, I missed my period. Bought a test, then another, then 3 more, all positive. The doctor estimated I was about 5 to 6 weeks along, which lined up perfectly with that chaotic month. With that many possibilities, I'd never know who the father was. Panic set in hard. Isaac and I had always been careful, always used protection. We'd talked about kids someday, after marriage, after the Europe trip, after a lot of things that would never happen now. But there was still time to fix this, I thought. If I could get Isaac to sleep with me right when he got back, I could pass the baby off as his. He'd never have to know about any of it. We'd have the family he always wanted, and I'd spend the rest of my life making it up to him in ways he'd never know about. I prepared my story carefully. When Isaac got home from Austin, exhausted but happy to see me, I told him I'd been thinking while he was gone. Thinking about our future, about taking next steps. "I want to have a baby," I said, trying to look excited instead of desperate. "I know we always said after marriage, but why wait? We love each other, we have the house, you're about to get promoted." Isaac's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Really? You're serious?" "So serious," I lied. "In fact, I think you should see a doctor just to make sure everything's working properly. You know, since you had that cycling accident in college." He agreed immediately because of course he did. Isaac would do anything to make me happy, even get unnecessary medical procedures. I made the appointment myself, researching what tests they'd run, how long results would take. For 2 weeks, I played the perfect girlfriend. Cooked his favorite meals, initiated date nights, acted excited about baby names and nursery colors, all while growing someone else's baby inside me, someone whose name I'd never know. The irony wasn't lost on me when Isaac came home with good news from the doctor. He was perfectly healthy, everything functioning normally. I acted thrilled, suggested we start trying immediately. "Actually," Isaac said, pulling out a prescription bottle, "the doctor gave me these vitamins, said they'll help with sperm production and motility, wants me to take them for a month before we start trying." Perfect. A built-in delay that would help my timeline. I kissed him and told him how excited I was to start our family. The next morning I went to pick up a refill for him, watching him swallow those pills with his morning coffee, knowing every single one was pointless. He'd smile at me over his mug and say things like, "For our future baby." And I'd smile back, the lie burning like acid in my throat. For 3 weeks, I kept up the charade. We had sex in the dark. I insisted on it, claiming it was more romantic. The truth was, I couldn't look at him while betraying him so completely. I'd make all the right noises, tell him how good it felt, while dying inside from the shame. Then came the day I'd been planning for. Isaac was at work when I called him, fake tears in my voice. I even splashed cold water on my face beforehand so my voice would sound shaky enough. "I couldn't wait," I said. "I took a test. Isaac, I'm pregnant." The joy in his voice broke something inside me. He actually cried, said he was leaving work immediately, that we had to celebrate. The promotion he'd worked so hard for, the one that was supposed to set up our future. He said none of it mattered compared to this news. He came home with flowers, sparkling cider, and a teddy bear for the baby. Started talking about names, whether it would be a boy or girl, how he couldn't wait to be a dad. All I could think about was that weekend at the clubhouse, all those faces I'd never see again, one of whom had given me this permanent reminder of my destruction. For 2 more months, I kept lying. Isaac became the most attentive partner imaginable. He read pregnancy books, downloaded apps to track the baby's development, went to every appointment with me. He'd talk to my stomach every night, telling little one about all the adventures they'd have together. The guilt was eating me alive, but I was already in too deep to back out. I'd convinced myself this was the only way to save our relationship, to give Isaac the family he deserved, even if it wasn't really his. I should have known Isaac was too smart to be fooled forever. He worked in tech, cloud security of all things, so of course he noticed things. Logins I forgot to sign out of. Location tags I didn't know were syncing. The kind of digital footprints normal people miss, but he never would. While I was playing house, he was piecing together the truth. The day my world ended started like any other. Isaac had made breakfast before work. Pancakes with fresh berries, my pregnancy craving of the week. Kissed me goodbye, told me he loved me, and little one said he'd be home for dinner. I spent the day like I'd been spending most days, online, reading mommy blogs and trying to convince myself I could pull this off. Around 5, I started dinner, wanting to have something nice ready when he got home. 6 o'clock came and went. Then 7. Isaac's phone went straight to voicemail. By 8, I was genuinely worried. This wasn't like him at all. At 9:30, I heard his key in the lock. Relief flooded through me until I saw his face. Empty, completely devoid of the warmth I'd taken for granted for 9 years. "Sit down," he said, his voice calm in a way that made my blood run cold. "We need to talk." He knew. Somehow, someway, he knew everything. He laid it out like a prosecutor. Every lie, every deception, every betrayal. The dating profiles on his laptop, complete with timestamps, saved messages, verification codes sent to his email that he'd recovered from the trash folder, because of course he knew how to find things I thought I'd deleted. The credit card charges I thought he'd never notice. The location data from my phone syncing to our shared cloud. "And Brittany," he said quietly. "I saw her tagged at a brewery in Sacramento that same weekend, 2 hours away from Tahoe. She told me she hadn't seen you in months." Then came the worst part. He opened his laptop and turned the screen toward me. Photos. Not from his brother or some coincidence. From a backup folder that had synced from my phone when I'd connected to our home Wi-Fi. Blurry, drunken selfies from that night at the clubhouse. I must have hit Allow Sync without realizing when I connected to the Wi-Fi. I'd forgotten how automatic those backups were. My face visible in the background of pictures I didn't even know were taken. 26 men, Grace?" His voice finally cracked. "In one night?" I tried to deny it, then to minimize it, then finally broke down and admitted everything. The affairs, the weekend at the clubhouse, the hookups while he was gone. Even the baby that wasn't his. Isaac listened to it all without expression, letting me sob and plead and make excuses. When I was done, he stood up and pulled out his phone. "I've already moved my things," he said. "Took time off while you were at your prenatal appointment yesterday. Already switched the security codes and Wi-Fi passwords. The house is in my name, so technically I could have thrown you out today. But I'll give you 30 days. "Isaac, please," I begged. We can work through this. Couples therapy, whatever you want. Think about the baby. That's not my baby, he said. We both know that. I'll pay child support if you try to claim it is, but I want a paternity test the moment it's born. He left that night and never came back. True to his word, I had 30 days to vacate the house I'd called home for 5 years. I tried to log into the thermostat that night and it locked me out. He'd already changed everything. 30 days to find an apartment I could afford on my retail salary, which wasn't much in Oakland's market. Tanya disappeared the moment things got real. I called her crying, begging for a place to crash while I figured things out. "Look, Grace," she said, background noise from another bar almost drowning her out. "I like to party, but I don't do drama, and I definitely can't have a pregnant woman on my couch. It kills the vibe, you know?" That was the last time we spoke. Wade blocked my number when I told him about the baby, claimed he'd had a vasectomy years ago. Like I'm supposed to take his word for anything. Said it wasn't his problem and hung up. My family found out through social media. Isaac's sister posted something vague about truth coming to light and supporting my brother through a difficult time. Within hours, everyone knew I was the villain in our story. My parents were devastated. My father actually cried when I admitted what I'd done, said he'd raised me better than this. My mother couldn't look at me, just kept asking why, over and over. They offered to help with the baby financially, but made it clear I'd burned bridges with them too. The financial fall was swift and brutal. I had to sell my designer bags, the Chloe clutch Isaac bought me for Christmas, the Prada tote from our anniversary, just to cover the security deposit on this hellhole. The landlord didn't even look at the bags, just counted the cash like he'd seen 100 women in my exact situation. My car got repossessed when I couldn't make payments, so now I take the bus everywhere, breathing in diesel fumes and desperation. Sometimes I see my old Mercedes at the dealership on Broadway, polished and waiting for someone who didn't destroy their life. Isaac, meanwhile, was thriving. His promotion went through and he threw himself into work with new energy. 3 months after our split, his social media showed him at company parties, hiking with friends, taking that Europe trip we'd planned, solo and looking happier than he had in years. 6 months after everything exploded, I saw him at Whole Foods in Rockridge. He was with someone new, a pretty brunette who laughed at something he said, her hand naturally finding his as they looked at wine. She was wearing a simple sundress and flats, no makeup, completely comfortable in her own skin. The opposite of what I'd become. Isaac saw me too. For a moment, our eyes met across the produce section. I waited for anger, for hurt, for any emotion that might give me hope he still cared. Instead, he gave me a polite nod, the kind you give someone you vaguely recognize from a dentist office, not the woman he once planned a life with. My stomach dropped in a way morning sickness never hit. I actually had to grip the cart so I wouldn't wobble. That's when it really hit me. I wasn't the villain in his story anymore. I wasn't anything at all. Just a mistake he'd moved past, a lesson learned, a reminder of what he didn't want in a partner. The baby was born 2 months ago. A little boy who looks nothing like Isaac, though I still can't place which of his possible fathers he resembles. Isaac has dark, almost black eyes. My son's eyes are a piercing, watery blue, just like Wade's were. The nurse handed me the birth certificate form and gently said, "You can leave the father section blank if you're unsure." I checked unknown with a shaking hand. I work double shifts at Target now, trying to afford daycare in this roach-infested apartment. My feet ache constantly, and sometimes I sit in the break room staring at the wall because I can't afford to buy a snack. The crib I bought off Facebook Marketplace is missing 2 screws, so I prop one side against the wall to keep it steady. Every night I pray it doesn't collapse. Half the time I sleep light, jolting awake at every creak, thinking the whole thing finally gave out. My parents help when they can, but the shame between us makes every interaction painful. They love their grandson but can barely stand to look at me. Sometimes I do the math, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. 9 years with a man who loved me completely, threw it away for 6 weeks with a guy old enough to be my father. 3 months of lies to cover up one weekend that destroyed everything. 37 different men, some who came back for seconds, from those 6 weeks, any one of whom could be my son's father. The most pathetic part? I still check Isaac's social media late at night, torturing myself with glimpses of the life I threw away. He and the brunette, Rebecca, according to her tagged photos, just moved in together. A beautiful craftsman in Temescal, the kind of house we used to dream about. She's everything I pretended to be, genuine, warm, secure in who she is. Their engagement announcement came last week. A simple photo of her hand with a classic solitaire, Isaac kissing her temple while she laughs. The caption just said, "She said yes," with a heart. No long, gushing paragraphs like I would have demanded. Just simple, real happiness. The comments destroyed me. All our old friends congratulating them, saying how perfect they were together, how they'd never seen Isaac so happy. His mother, who'd treated me like a daughter for 9 years, commented, "Welcome to the family, sweetheart. You're exactly what our son deserves." I threw my phone across the room after reading that, startling the baby. Because she was right. Rebecca was exactly what Isaac deserved. Someone who knew her worth without needing to destroy others to feel valuable. Someone who could appreciate stability without calling it boring. Someone who understood that real love isn't about wild weekends and dangerous men, but about coming home to someone who knows your coffee order and saves the last slice of pizza for you. My son deserves better too. Deserves a father who wanted him, a stable home, a mother who isn't broken by her own choices. Instead, he got me. A cautionary tale about what happens when you have everything and throw it away for nothing. Wade died last month. Motorcycle accident on 580, probably drunk like always. His brother posted about it on Facebook, talking about what a legend he was, how he lived life on his own terms. 59 years old, no kids he claimed, no lasting relationships, just a string of damaged women and drinking buddies who'll forget him by next year. That could have been my son's father, or any of the 26 men from that night whose names I never knew, or one of the 10 random hookups from dating apps, guys who probably don't even remember me. My son's medical history will always be a mystery, his heritage a question mark, all because I needed to feel alive for a few weeks. The therapist at the free clinic, an overworked resident who sees 12 patients an hour, says I need to forgive myself, like forgiveness fixes rent or daycare or consequences. But this wasn't a mistake. It was a series of deliberate choices that destroyed the best thing in my life. Isaac wasn't boring. He was consistent. He wasn't predictable. He was reliable. He wasn't safe. He was home. Now, home is this moldy apartment where the baby and I sleep on a mattress on the floor because I can't afford a bed frame, where I wash dishes in the bathroom sink because the kitchen faucet broke and the landlord won't fix it. Where I lie awake at night doing math I should have done before. 9 years versus 6 weeks, real love versus cheap thrills, a partner who adored me versus men who saw me as entertainment. I want to end this story with hope, with some lesson about redemption or second chances. But that's not how real life works when you detonate a nuclear bomb in your own life. Some things can't be fixed. Some choices can't be undone. Some men, once lost, never come back. Isaac's wedding is in 3 months. Rebecca's registry is full of the same things I once dreamed of. Good cookware, nice sheets, the kinds of things that build a life together. I won't be invited, of course. I'll probably spend that day like I spend most days now, working, caring for a baby whose father I'll never know, and living with the knowledge that I had everything and chose nothing. Some nights, I rock my son to sleep and whisper apologies he'll never understand. Other nights, I scroll through Isaac's wedding registry like some unhinged ghost, imagining the life I threw away. Every click feels like a punishment I earned. And every time he cries, it hits me all over again that he deserved a better start than the one I gave him. They say you don't know what you have until it's gone. That's a lie. I knew exactly what I had with Isaac. I just convinced myself I deserved more, deserved different, deserved excitement. Turns out what I deserved was exactly what I got, a lifetime of consequences for a weekend of choices. My name is Grace. I'm 32 years old, and I destroyed my life for 26 bikers and a handful of strangers whose faces I can't even remember. My son will grow up without a father because his mother needed to prove she wasn't boring. Isaac will marry Rebecca in the house we should have shared, live the life we should have built, raise the children who should have been ours. And I'll be here in East Oakland, in this apartment that smells like mildew and regret, raising a baby alone and knowing that every single day of struggle is exactly what I earned. I get the silence of an empty phone, the kind that makes you check the signal even when you know damn well nothing's wrong but you. The silence that comes when you trade 9 years of "good morning, beautiful" texts for a notification that your dating profile has been viewed. That's my life now. Just silence, regret, and the occasional cry of a baby who'll never know his father, because his mother thought excitement mattered more than love. I am in this position not because the universe is cruel, but because it's fair. Because when you have a man who loves you completely and you throw him away for men who won't even remember your name, you get exactly what you deserve: nothing.